my girlfriend accused. "This is all your fault." After standing silent when her brother publicly called me a tech nerd buying love in front of investors and friends, I smiled calmly, closed every account, and said, "Your family drama is my problem." 2.5 months later, when the eviction notice arrived, she finally learned what done really means. I am Marcus, software engineer turned startup founder in Seattle. Made some good money when my company got acquired last year, not Silicon Valley rich, but comfortable enough to actually help the people I love build their dreams. Sarah has been my girlfriend for 4 years. She is God. She was everything to me. Brilliant chef. This incredible passion for farm-to-table cuisine, and these big dreams about opening her own restaurant. When I met her, she was working double shifts at some chain restaurant, saving every penny for culinary school. I fell hard, like embarrassingly hard. Here is the thing though, there was always this shadow hanging over us. Dylan. Her older brother, Dylan's 30, and he has been making it as a musician for about 12 years now, which is code for bartending at dive bars and playing open mic nights to crowds of 5 people. But according to Sarah, he is this misunderstood artistic genius who just needs the right break. To me, he is a manipulative leech who has never worked an honest day in his life. The guy has a prior bankruptcy and several defaulted loans on his record. But somehow Sarah still sees him as her protector. The guy has this way of making everything about him. Sarah gets accepted to culinary school. Dylan suddenly needs money for studio time. Sarah lands a great job. Dylan's having a creative crisis and needs to move in with us for a few months. Sarah gets excited about anything good happening to her. Dylan finds a way to make her feel guilty about it, and he is subtle about it, never anything you could call him out on directly. Just this constant drip of poison. "Remember when we were kids and you said you would always take care of me? Or I just worry that success is changing you, Sarah. You are not the same person anymore." The worst part, it worked. Sarah would light up about something amazing happening in her life. Then Dylan would work his magic, and suddenly she would be apologizing to me for being selfish or materialistic. But I am patient. I loved her. So when she got into culinary school, I paid the $40 K tuition without blinking. When she wanted to do that expensive externship in France, I covered it. When she graduated top of her class and started talking about opening her own place, I didn't just encourage her. I wrote the checks. We found this perfect spot in Capitol Hill. Lease, renovations, equipment, permits. I fronted everything. $250 K all in. Sarah was going to be the chef owner. I would be the silent partner with clear withdrawal clauses in our partnership agreement. We were building something together. The whole time, Dylan's in the background, making little comments. "Must be nice to have a sugar daddy." He would mutter when Sarah wasn't listening. Or he would tell her, "I hope you are not compromising your artistic vision for his money." 3 weeks ago was the soft opening. Everything I had worked for, everything Sarah had dreamed of it, was finally happening. We invited prospective investors, local food bloggers, friends, family. Sarah was glowing. She had worked 16-hour days for months getting ready. Dylan showed up in ripped jeans and a stained band t-shirt. Already drunk. The evening started perfectly. The food was incredible. The reviews were going to be amazing. People were talking about investing in expansion. Sarah was in her element, floating between tables, and I was so proud I could barely contain myself. Then Dylan decided it was time for a speech. He grabbed a wine glass, my wine, by the way, climbed onto a chair, and started rambling about authentic artistry and people who sell out for comfort. The room got uncomfortable, but Sarah just looked embarrassed, not angry. Then he looked straight at me, with this smug little smirk, and said it. "I mean, let's be honest here. My sister's got real talent, real vision. She is way too good for some tech nerd who bought his way into her life thinking money can replace actual passion." The entire restaurant went silent. Our prospective investors, the food bloggers, Sarah's culinary school friends, everyone And Sarah, she just stood there, blushing. Not defending me, not shutting him down, just mortified that he was making a scene. That is when it clicked for me. She wasn't embarrassed because he was wrong. She was embarrassed because he had said the quiet part out loud. I put down my glass, very slowly, looked around the room at all these people who had invested time and money because they believed in us. Then I looked at Dylan, still swaying on his chair, grinning like he had just won something, and I smiled. A calm, final smile. I didn't say a word. Not one word. I just pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and quietly froze the company account. Canceled every pending payment. The equipment lease payment scheduled for Monday, frozen. The supplier invoices due this week, canceled. I sent a quick message to my lawyer invoking the exit clauses in our partnership agreement. Sarah noticed something was wrong when I started walking toward the door. Marcus, where are you going? I turned around one last time, looked at her standing there in her chef's coat, confused and panicking, while her brother finally climbed down from his chair looking pleased with himself. Ask Dylan, I said quietly. Ask your brother how he plans to cover the $8,000 rent that is due Monday. Then I walked out of the restaurant I had built for her, got in my car, and drove home. That was 3 weeks ago. She has been calling, texting, showing up at my house. But here is the thing, I gave her a choice that night. Him or me, she made it clear which one mattered more. So Reddit, AITA. Or did I just finally learn what my own boundaries were worth? Edit. Holy shit. Didn't expect this to blow up. Reading all your comments, and, yeah, I think I needed to hear some of this. Update coming. Update 1. She showed up at my door yesterday. What she told me about Dylan changes everything. Jesus, you guys. Your comments on my last post hit me like a truck. Thank you for the reality check. I needed it more than I realized. So here is what has been happening since the restaurant disaster. For 2 weeks, Sarah has been blowing up my phone. Calls, texts, emails, showing up at my apartment building. At first it was angry. How could you humiliate me like that? You destroyed everything we built. This is financial abuse. Then it shifted to bargaining. I will talk to Dylan. We can work this out. I will pay you back somehow. Finally, desperation. Please. Marcus, I am losing everything. The restaurant, my reputation, my career. Please. I stayed strong, changed my locks, avoided the places I knew she would look for me. But yesterday she showed up at my door looking like she hadn't slept in weeks. Marcus, please. 5 minutes. There is something you need to know about Dylan. Against my better judgment, I let her in. What she told me, fuck, I am still processing it. Turns out Dylan's been playing a much longer game than I thought. Remember how I mentioned he always needed money for creative projects? Well, Sarah finally went through his stuff after they got kicked out of her apartment. Couldn't make rent without my support. She found a folder, printed emails, bank statements, even handwritten notes. Dylan has been systematically planning to get me out of the picture for years. Not just casual jealousy, actual calculated manipulation. The emails were to his ex-girlfriend, talking about how he was working on Sarah to dump me so he could get access to my money directly. How he had convinced Sarah that I was controlling her with financial support. How he had planted seeds that I didn't really care about her art. Just wanted a trophy girlfriend. But here is the part that made me physically sick. Dylan has been lying to Sarah about me behind my back. Telling her I said things I never said, like how I supposedly told him at a family barbecue that Sarah's cute, but not that bright, and that her little cooking hobby is adorable but not a real business. I never said any of that, ever. But Sarah believed him because, why would her brother lie? There is more. Dylan convinced her that the reason I paid for everything wasn't love, it was control. He told her I would use the financial support to manipulate her later, that I was building a cage made of money. Every time Sarah started to feel grateful for what I was doing, Dylan was there to poison it. He is keeping receipts. Sarah, rich guys always do. He is going to own you. She actually apologized for letting me pay for culinary school. Can you believe that? She felt guilty for accepting help from someone who loved her because her brother convinced her it was a trap. The worst part, Dylan had been planning to push me out right after the restaurant got established. Once it was profitable, he was going to convince Sarah to buy out my share with a loan, then suggest she make him the business manager. He had already researched how to do it legally. Sarah was crying by the time she finished telling me all this. I believed him, Marcus. He is my brother, I thought. I thought he was protecting me, but he was protecting himself. She begged me to reconsider, said she had cut Dylan out completely, that she finally saw who he really was. But you know what? I just sat there listening to her explain how my entire relationship was built on lies and manipulation from someone she chose over me, and I felt nothing. Not anger. Not vindication. Nothing. Sarah, I said quietly, let me ask you something. In 4 years together, did I ever give you a reason not to trust me? She shook her head, tears streaming. Did I ever try to control you? Ever tell you that you couldn't see friends, couldn't make your own choices? Did I ever make you feel small or stupid or unworthy? No, Marcus, never. But Dylan did all of those things, and you believed him over me. For years. She tried to interrupt, but I held up my hand. You stood in that restaurant and watched your brother humiliate me in front of our friends and investors. You didn't defend me. You didn't shut him down. You just let it happen. That wasn't Dylan manipulating you, Sarah. That was you choosing. I walked her to the door. I hope you can rebuild your career. I really do. But I cannot rebuild trust with someone who was so willing to believe the worst about me. She left sobbing. I poured myself a whiskey and realized something. The manipulation explains the backstory, but it doesn't change the ending. When it mattered most, she picked him over me. Dylan might have poisoned the well, but Sarah chose to drink from it. So, what do you think? Reddit. Does knowing about Dylan's manipulation change anything? Or am I right to walk away from someone who was so ready to believe I was the villain? Edit. The messages from some of you are intense. Didn't realize how common this kind of family manipulation is. Maybe I should check what is happening with the restaurant. Update 2. Dylan just called me. You will not believe what he is asking for. I wasn't going to update again, but this is too insane not to share. First, let me catch you up on what has been happening since my last post. I did some digging into the restaurant situation, and, yikes, it is worse than I thought. Without my financial backing, Sarah lasted exactly 10 weeks. Within days, repo guys showed up for the kitchen equipment. Sarah called me crying, but I was past caring when she missed the first payment. The bank called in the renovation loan after 2 missed payments. The landlord started eviction proceedings when she couldn't make rent for the second month. But here is where it gets interesting. Sarah apparently tried to get an emergency business loan to keep things afloat. Banks wanted to see the partnership agreements, financial projections, all that stuff. That is when she discovered Dylan had been creative with some of the paperwork. Remember how he was planning to become the business manager? Well, he had already started. Using her desperation after I left, he convinced her to sign some documents to help save the restaurant. Sarah was panicking, sleep-deprived, and Dylan kept saying things like, you need to act fast or you will lose everything, and I am the only family you have left. In her desperation, she signed what she thought were emergency loan applications and restructuring papers. What she actually signed were documents that gave him power of attorney over the business finances and made him a 50% owner of what was left. The banks took one look at Dylan's financial history, a prior bankruptcy, multiple defaulted loans, 0 legitimate income, and laughed her out of the building. Game over. Restaurant closed 2 weeks ago with an eviction notice on the door. Sarah's now about $180K in debt with a destroyed credit rating and a culinary degree she cannot afford to use because no investor will touch her after this clusterfuck. But wait, it gets better. Yesterday, my phone rang. Unknown number, Marcus. It is Dylan. I almost hung up, but honestly, I was curious what this piece of shit had to say. Listen, Man, I know we got off on the wrong foot. You destroyed your sister's life and career. Dylan, we didn't get off on the wrong foot. You are a predator. Look, I hear you, okay? I made some mistakes. But here's the thing, Sarah's in real trouble. Like, bankruptcy trouble, and I was thinking, maybe we could work something out? This is where it gets absolutely fucking insane. Dylan, this broke-ass 30-year-old who has never had a real job, who just financially destroyed his own sister, asked me to loan him $200K to restart the restaurant properly this time. His pitch, I learned from my mistakes. And now I know how to run a business. Sarah's got the talent, but she is too emotional. I am the practical one. With your money and my management, we could make this work. I had even cut you in for 40%. I literally laughed out loud. Dylan, let me make sure I understand this correctly. You want me to give you money to restart the business that you helped destroy, using the sister you manipulated as the chef, after you spent years trying to get me out of the picture. When you put it like that, it sounds bad. And what exactly do you bring to this partnership? Dylan, your extensive business experience, your stellar credit rating, your track record of success? Silence. Here is what I think happened. Dylan, you thought you were so clever, playing the long game to get your hands on my money. But you are not smart enough to actually run a business, are you? You can manipulate your sister, but you cannot manipulate banks or investors or health inspectors. So now you are fucked. She is fucked. And you need the same guy you spent years undermining to save your ass, Marcus. Come on, where is Sarah in all this? Dylan, does she know you are calling me? Does she know you are trying to use her talent as collateral for another one of your schemes? Long pause. She doesn't know I am calling. Of course, she doesn't. Because even after everything, you are still lying to her. I hung up. But here is the thing that is eating at me, Reddit. Sarah's life is completely destroyed. Her dream is dead. Her career is over. And she is buried in debt that will take decades to pay off. And yeah, Dylan orchestrated a lot of it. But she made the choice to trust him over me when it mattered. Part of me wonders if I should have fought harder for her. If I should have seen through Dylan's manipulation and helped her see it too. But then I remember standing in that restaurant, watching her choose to defend the person who was actively sabotaging our relationship. And I think, maybe this was always going to be the ending. What do you think? Am I a cold bastard for walking away from someone who is being manipulated? Or is there a point where being manipulated stops being an excuse? Some of you are asking if I miss her. I do. I miss who I thought she was. Final update, Sarah sent me a letter. I wasn't prepared for what it said. I thought I was done with this story, but I got something in the mail yesterday that, honestly, I need to share this. 3 months of silence. And then this thick envelope with my name written in Sarah's handwriting shows up in my mailbox. 8 pages. Handwritten. No manipulation, no bargaining, no asking for anything. Just truth. I am going to share parts of it because I think you guys deserve to know how this really ends. Marcus, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your attention after everything I have done, but I need to say this, even if you never read it. I have spent the last 3 months in therapy working through what Dylan did to me and what I did to you. My therapist helped me understand something I couldn't see before. Being manipulated doesn't make me innocent. Dylan spent years poisoning my mind against you, but I chose to let the poison stay. Every time you showed me love and support, I had a choice. Believe the man who is proving his love through actions, or believe the man who was whispering doubts in my ear. I chose the whispers. I convinced myself that questioning your motives was protecting my independence. But really, I was protecting Dylan. I was protecting the familiar dysfunction I grew up with because change felt scarier than staying small. That night at the restaurant, when Dylan humiliated you, I didn't defend you because defending you would have meant admitting that I had been wrong about you for years. It would have meant facing how much I had hurt you by believing his lies. So I chose the coward's way. I let you be the villain because it was easier than facing my own guilt. The letter goes on, but this next part broke me. You asked me once if you ever gave me a reason not to trust you. The answer was no. You were everything good, everything stable, everything real. But Dylan was familiar. He was the chaos I was raised in, the voice that told me I wasn't worth good things. I chose chaos over love because chaos felt like home. I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too broken to believe I deserved it. She told me about the therapy, about finally cutting Dylan out completely. He is apparently back to couch surfing and blaming everyone else for his problems. She told me about filing for bankruptcy, about working as a line cook at a chain restaurant to pay off what debts she can. But this part hit hardest. I am not writing this to get you back. I know that is over. I am writing because you deserved better than what I gave you. And you deserve to know that it wasn't your fault. You didn't fail me, Marcus. You loved me completely, and I was too scared and too damaged to accept it. That is on me, not you. I hope someday you find someone who is brave enough to accept the kind of love you give, someone who will not let other people's poison turn them against the best thing in their life. You were the best thing in mine. I just wasn't strong enough to fight for it. I am working on becoming someone who would be. Not for you, I know that ship has sailed, but for me. So I never hurt someone I love like this again. I sat in my car reading this letter for an hour, just processing. The truth is, I did love her completely, and part of me always will. But loving someone doesn't mean accepting betrayal, even if that betrayal came from a place of pain. She is right, being manipulated doesn't make her innocent. She still made choices. We all make choices. I wrote her back. Just a short note saying, I appreciated her honesty, that I hoped she found peace, and that I forgave her. Because I do forgive her. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. I am seeing someone new now. Emma, she is a veterinarian, funny as hell. And when I told her this whole story, her response was, Jesus, Marcus, that is awful. But also, you handled that like a fucking boss. Emma doesn't have a Dylan in her life. She doesn't need to be saved from toxic family members or manipulative situations. She is just healthy, stable, present. It is different than what I had with Sarah, quieter, maybe. But it is real in a way that my relationship with Sarah never was, because it is built on truth instead of working around lies. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Sarah had been brave enough to see Dylan for who he was earlier. If she had chosen me over him when it mattered. But then I remember that the person who could make that choice wouldn't have needed me to save her in the first place. She would have saved herself. Sarah's working on becoming that person now. I genuinely hope she succeeds. But it is not my job to wait around to see if she does. Love isn't always enough. Sometimes the person you love isn't ready to be loved the way they deserve. Sometimes they are too broken, too scared, or too loyal to the wrong people. That doesn't make them evil, but it also doesn't make it your problem to fix. I spent 4 years trying to build something beautiful with someone who was letting other people tear it down from the inside. I don't regret the love I gave her, but I don't regret walking away either. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's self-destruction, even if that someone is the person you love most. Thanks for following this journey, Reddit. You helped me see things clearly when I couldn't see past my own hurt. Now, if you will excuse me, Emma's making dinner, and I have got a life to build with someone who is ready to build it with me.